Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to animals. Specifically, animals I only encountered after moving to the United States. And one such animal is the coyote. From ransacking chicken coops to stealing household pets, coyotes, much like raccoons, seem to be disliked by most Americans that I speak to. So why is that, apart from the fact that they ransack chicken coops and steal household pets? Well, in today's video, I'm going to sink my own teeth into this very topic and perhaps dispel one or two myths about an animal that almost looks like a household pet itself. And so, if you want to become a member of the pack and haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, do that now. In the meantime, let's take a look at what the Quincy Gazette calls a glorified wolf. While I mostly like to live in the present, allow me to take you back in time to 40 seconds ago when I said this. Specifically, animals I only encountered after moving to the United States. And one such animal is the coyote. When I spoke those words, I'm ashamed to admit I completely and utterly lied a little bit. Because while they are indeed only found in North America, a single coyote was once introduced into the British television wilderness by the name of Wile E. Coyote. Indeed, as a child and sometimes later as a human, I loved nothing more than to watch this maniacal canine plunge to his death after briefly defying Newton's first law of motion. Back then, I had no idea what a coyote was or whether they were predisposed to using TNT explosives. All I knew was that I liked TV from across the pond. And that same sentence is still true now that I live here. So how does somebody like me safely consume his favourite Channel 4 programmes like Naked Attraction while living in America? Well, I've got 4 words for you. NordVPN. Actually, that's just one word. NordVPN is a virtual private network that, among other things, allows me to access my favourite television shows even when I'm in another country. And the good news is, I feel safe doing so, even though I'm watching a show about nude people. And that's because I'm watching it for an anthropology class, but also because of NordVPN's threat protection. Threat protection scans and removes malware. It also blocks malicious websites, stops web trackers, and removes annoying ads, as opposed to deeply invigorating brand partnerships. If you sign up at nordvpn.com/pond, NordVPN is your oyster. Here's why. Every purchase of the 2-year plan will receive 4 bonus months on top, an offer that extends to all plans, standard, plus, and complete. And if, like me, you're the sort of person that puts things off until the last minute, don't. Because right now, 2-year purchases also come with an additional 3 months of service in the form of a coupon. So you could gift NordVPN to a friend or family member, or you could keep it for yourself, which is what I do. Remember, head to nordvpn.com/pond to get your exclusive offer. The link is in my description below. Throughout this video so far, you've heard me say the word coyote 6 times. And one such animal is the coyote. Coyotes, a single coyote of Wile E. Coyote. No idea what a coyote was. You've heard me say the word coyote 6 times. And on each of those occasions, I never failed to pronounce it with 3 syllables. But as I discovered this week, my fellow Americans don't always follow suit. In a poll posted to my YouTube community section, more than 30,000 respondents told me how they pronounce it. Coyote or coyote. Curiously, more than 10% went with the second option. These results were more or less mirrored by the same poll on X, formerly known as Twitbook. So what's going on? Well, according to some of the comments beneath the poll, coyote is reserved for 2 things. Number 1, some Americans might opt for the dismissive 2-syllable approach when another pesky coyote has gotten into the barn again. And number 2, coyote appears to just be the predominant pronunciation out west. Oh, and speaking of that part of the world, in 2024, the coyote range map is oddly similar to that of the bald eagle, my video about whom I will link to at the end. In fact, this is true right down to the fact that, like America's national bird, coyotes can be found in every state except Hawaii. But as recently as 1900, this was by no means the case. Back then, coyotes barely carried any states east of the Mississippi, charting an obvious path to victory for beagles in that year's canine presidential election. But just as human pioneers had headed west past in the previous century, coyotes did the exact opposite in the 20th century. Reasons for this are hotly debated, but animal scientists agree that coyotes have no interest in panning for gold. Hi, dog. Instead, their expansion likely owes much to the following factors. Firstly, the significant decline of its predators like wolves, but also cougars, pumas, mountain lions, catamounts, and panthers. I'm being told those are different words for the exact same animal. What a country. During that same period, cougars and wolves went from inhabiting almost all US states to merely a handful. Not only did this reduce attacks on coyotes, but opened up their food source. Another highly suggested factor for coyote expansion is the deforestation of the United States. In the 300 years between the Mayflower and Prohibition, the nation's forested lands went from this to this. And while your reaction to that graphic was probably along the lines of "that's f***ing awful," 94% of coyotes responded favorably to it in focus groups. And that's because historically, coyotes sought out agricultural landscapes like those of the Great Plains. Of course, that's not to say coyotes don't dwell in forests. In fact, they're well known for their remarkable adaptability, with some even showing up in major cities. In fact, it was under that precise circumstance that I saw one for the first and so far only time. 4 years ago, a few weeks before Illinois went into lockdown, I was still living in a 500 square foot apartment in uptown Chicago. Just outside our door was a metal fence, a chain link fence, and a car park. Except for all of the times that my wife turned me into an Instagram husband, not much ever happened here. That is until precisely February 6, 2020, approximately. For it was on that very day that a coyote had somehow got itself trapped between the fences in question. Feeling helpless, I made a beeline for my phone, but unfortunately for the poor animal, a dead battery meant I wasn't able to get film footage of the stricken creature. This is because, in a moment of weakness, my wife put the animal's welfare before amazing content, and freed the coyote, who ran off down an alley. And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence, if this is a true story, why on earth would you remember the exact date? I didn't. I just ran an advanced Twitter search this morning for the keyword coyote and realized that I'd commemorated the incident that day in a tweet. The point is, coyotes, like my wife's cousin Chad, can cause problems in urban areas. In fact, Fred from down the street warned me last spring that coyotes had been spotted roaming the streets of my current residence. Having adopted a puppy in that time, should I heed Fred's warning not to take him for a walk at night? The dog, not Fred. It's time to look at the facts. When I first moved to the United States, I'm not ashamed to admit I feared America's dangerous animals might end up killing me in half. The animals that I feared most were bears, black widows, and any animal that looked like it could kill a deer. But much to my surprise, it turns out that coyotes, who do indeed feed on deer, are generally fearful of humans. To the extent that there have only been 2 recorded instances of fatal coyote attacks in the history of North America's history. In fact, with an annual kill count of 200, the biggest human killer outside of domestic dogs and humans themselves is, what do you know? Deer. But more on that at some other time. But it is true that coyotes go after smaller animals. On occasion, this can include household pets like cats and dogs. However, there's something to keep in mind. They are highly unlikely to do this if that pet is accompanied by a human. Fred from down the street, I hope you're watching. For extra insurance, if you do encounter a coyote, be sure to make yourself big while making a loud noise. You might get heavily judged by Suburban Sue, but the coyote will likely scarper, which is British slang for run away. That said, there have been numerous cases of coyotes stealing pets from people's yards. And not even a gate like this one ensures that they won't trespass, with coyotes often capable of jumping them. And my non-American subscribers might be thinking, wait, so do most Americans just have 20-foot high fences? And the answer to that is no, except for Suburban Sue. Does that mean then that every homeowner is constantly having to make themselves big while making a loud noise? Again, no, that's Bruce Banner. While some states, like Texas, have a higher coyote concentration than others, your average and sometimes below average American doesn't have to deal with them all that often. At least this has been the case for me, but just as I do with my niece during a visit to the candy aisle at Walgreens, it's important to stay vigilant. This is especially important because coyotes can carry various diseases and parasites, some of which can be transferred to your pet. But in the interest of a happy ending, here's Curious George, who's politely agreed to be sacrificed if it will save the life of my dog. If I've learned anything from this video, it is that coyotes would not make good household pets. They might boast the physical cuteness of my dog Arthur, but they will stop at nothing in their quest for food. A bit like Arthur. And if you're a fan of my animal content, it is your patriotic duty to watch this video about bald eagles next. Until the next video, goodbye.